Hey folks, how's everyone going today? It is a Sunday and I'm running late and I haven't done videos in a while, and I also feel like rubbish because I had about 100 beers last night, but overdue for a video, and the Luckfox Lyra has been released. These are awesome little boards. So I thought I'll look at both of them and see what they can do, what they're designed for, and we'll put them on the tier list. Let's get into it. If you don't know about the tier list, I started putting this together a few videos ago, and it's what I've started doing in 2025 for everything I have a look at. So we've only got two on there so far, the Waveshare RP2030 Plus and the ESP32P4 Avel board. But I am breaking this down as well into the type, because you can't always compare apples and oranges, you know. So these Lyra will be going up on here once we've had a look at them. What's also important though is these board taxonomies. So this is something I recently shared in r/SBCs. Great place if you want to get to know other people that are into SBCs as well, or want to contribute to the community, or even just have questions. How's mine not arrived yet? Bloody hell. So board taxonomies are what I'm trying to define, because there's so many variations and people using things wrong. It's like MCU versus SoC. So you've got single board computer, which you know of. You've got a compute module, which is like a cut down version of that. But then I'm saying you've got an eSBC. So an eSBC is a smaller SBC, but it just doesn't have dedicated display output. No HDMI, no VGA, no DVI. So those are things where we get things like the Milk 5 Duo and Luckfox Pico Pro. You then can step, so these can still run Linux, like a full multitasking operating system. The next step down though is an embedded system board. So this can't actually run a full Linux. It usually runs like Arduino, MicroPython and whatnot. So we're looking at, you know, the Pi, Pico, ESP32, that sort of stuff there. And then at the very bottom of the list, you have dev boards or eval boards. So what is this? Well, having a look at it and having a look at the software that's available, this can actually run an Ubuntu distribution. It is the Rockchip RK, let's have a close-up look for you there. That is the Rockchip RK3506. So that's a triple core, I think it's an ARM 7L, so 32-bit, or ARM HF, triple core 1.2 gigahertz processor. Let's go have a look at the documentation here. So I'm going to say, given that this runs Ubuntu, that it is an eSBC. It can run a full operating system that does have a Buildroot variation too. And we'll see that here, that it's got optional SPI flash, and you can use Ubuntu if you've got an SD card. So looking at the specs of this, before we get too far ahead of ourselves, it's essentially, go back here, you can see the plus model and the non-plus model. So this is the Luckfox Lyra, and it comes in an A and a B. This is the A that has no SPI flash on the back. The variant B has 256 meg SPI flash. The Plus model has the flash, always, and then also adds the Ethernet port. Now, the Ethernet port doesn't appear to be available on here. As you can see, there are some pads, but they're not labeled like the Luckfox Pico have. And then this triple core CPU also has a fourth core, which is a Cortex M0 from memory, which is the MCU, and 128 meg of RAM. Now on the board, they've added boot and reset buttons like the Waveshare RP2350 that we looked at. You've got your USB-C header. You have a USB connector there, which is really cool. SD card or TF card sits above it. And then this isn't a camera interface. This is a MIPI DSI interface for a display, which is really, really cool. So now, the first thing that we're going to rank or look at is how available these are, because that's really important. To give you a quick flashback or recap, we rank it based on the price and availability, features and specs, documentation and support, software images / firmware, performance and reliability, and the accessories and compatibility. So it's kind of, I've got 6 different metrics there, and I just eyeball it at the end. But having a look at this, so first and foremost, I stock it. You can see it here, you can see it in the newly added ones. This is my SBC shop, but I've also got electronic components and everything, anything you might want to connect to an SBC, I hope. If we click on Luckfox, you can see I've got piles of Luckfox stuff. Some's pre-order, some's in stock, some's on sale, and we have the Lyra options here. But going a bit more abroad, I'm Australia-based, not everyone likes Australian shipping delays or costs. You can see my store listing there. It's also available on AliExpress / Alibaba. Now, AliExpress does definitely have some good shopping options. However, not everyone likes buying from it. You can also buy it straight from Luckfox themselves or Waveshare, which are essentially partner companies. So it's not hugely available, but it is available. They're stocked inside and outside of China, which is important at the moment for everything going on in the US, I think. So if you're in the US and don't want to play that tariff that's just come about, you won't have to with my shop because I'm in Australia. I'm going to give it the price and availability. Price is good, about 20 bucks is excellent for a triple core 1.2 gigahertz device like this that even optionally has Ethernet and can connect to a display. Availability is a little bit lower though, so I'm going to give these 3.5 out of 5 stars for price and availability. Before I go any further though, I did just want to say one thing. I have to get my keyboard out, open a new tab, not go to YouTube, and thank PCBWay. They are continuing to sponsor this channel, which is fantastic. It's really, really appreciated. There is a link at the top of my description below. I'd love it if you can click it if you don't have an account yet. Just create an account. You don't need to put a credit card down or anything like that, but it helps them recognize, that I'm supporting them, but also helps you. You get $5 off your first order if you're new timer. So you can get 10 pieces of 1 to 2 layers in 24 hours. And just pay shipping, which is also usually really cheap, like $7 to Australia for one of those. You can get PCBA too, which is 29 bucks for the first 20 pieces, not including the parts, and their quality is excellent. I'm going to be using more of their processors soon, like the machining and 3D printing, but I've just ordered some more PCBs that we'll see in a coming video. So thank you, PCBWay. Now, of course, like and subscribe if you do like this video. If you like this content, I want to know that you like it so I know what sort of content to put out. But if you really like it, if you like what I'm doing, if you like this channel, I'm sorry to hear that. No, but if you really do, I actually have a Patreon now. So if we have a look back over here, I've only got 2 Patreons so far, and I don't really post much. I'm still trying to get into the habit of it. But if you want to support this channel and help me get better boards, better equipment, everything like that, I'd love for you to come support me. Thanks to Quo, and the new guy who hasn't said what he wants to be referred to as. I'll put your monikers at the end of this video. I really appreciate the support. The first thing that I'm going to be getting is a new camera to replace this one. This is the Brio 4K. I'll put that down there for close-up looks, and I'll get a Razer Ultra or something like that. So, welcome to support me. Don't have to, don't really care, but at least click that link to check out PCBWay, because even if you aren't into PCBs, they've got this module store. And I've got to order a new hot plate. They've got soldering irons, they've got tools, they've got all sorts of fun stuff. So do have a look. Thank you again to PCBWay. Now, back to the product. The next thing we're going to rank on these out of 5 is the features and specs. So our form factor is that typical, what we're calling the gum stick form factor. This is actually quite common from the Pi Pico. So you got your 40-pin header or so. That's going to fit in a lot of accessories. 2 different lengths, but you can see they've kept the GPIOs in the same place. So very solid common form factor. 3 cores, 128 meg of RAM, SD card, SPI flash, no GPU, no Wi-Fi, isn't Ethernet option, and there's plenty of GPIOs. Now these are now using the new Rockchip IO matrix. You can pretty much mix and match what you want or what you need from any of those GPIOs, which is really, really awesome, really powerful. No real-time clock, no NPU/TPU in this, and they don't do encoding. The reason is these are display outputs, as I said, not camera inputs. So the Luckfox Picos, which are about the same form factor as this, had cameras. So of course you got the NPU there, so it can do object detection and recognition. This is output, so this is more about a touch interface, MIPI DSI, and video rendering. Now, I do have displays for this. I haven't got them working yet, so when I do get them working, because these are so damn new, I'll probably do a video about those displays because they look excellent. But for now, we're sticking with this. There's also no PoE on any of the models, but you might be able to jerry-rig something in yourself. I do have these PoE adapters in the shop that kind of split network into network and USB-C power. I might have one here, hang on. There we go. So if you really want PoE for something that doesn't have it, these are excellent. You just go network in there, USB-C for power in there, and you plug that into your 802.3 AF or AT switch, and off you go. Specs there. Got these in stock, very, very handy. So no PoE. Features and specs, if we're going to rate this out of 5, that again is going to be really hard. For what it is, I think it's perfect. I've got to give it a 5 out of 5. I mean, maybe a 4 out of 5 for not having an RTC, but I guess as well, the Pico doesn't have the headers for the Ethernet, so they could have had the headers on there so you can add it on with the RJ45 module like you can with the Milk 5 Duos and the Luckfox Picos, but not an option here. All right, so we're going to give them 4 out of 5 for features and specs. Now, documentation is next. let's jump over and have a look at that. You have the landing page here. They have changed the documentation a bit recently, and I'm going to give them some feedback because everything opens in a new tab. That's very frustrating. So we click on getting started, then we click on product introduction, and it takes you through everything. So we can see the specs and information here that we're just talking about. It's got how to flash it. It's got Mac, Linux, and Windows examples, which is quite good. Their images are in Google Drive. Now, I'm not a fan of that. The reason being, if you don't have a Google account, you'll usually hit an error saying that they've exceeded their quota. If you get that, just create a free Google account to sign in, because then it's using your download quota, which is very, very handy. These were last updated under 2 months ago, very, very recent, which is very good. And I can tell you they have a Linux 6.1 kernel in them, which is amazing for Rockchip, as some of you may know. So I'd much prefer that this was in GitHub or something like that. Similarly, I did find that to flash the SD card, you need to use their special SD disk tool. Now, first of all, this requires admin rights to run, which I think is a little rude. But secondly, it also doesn't come with a Windows or Linux variant. So that posed some problems. I do have a solution though. Here's my solution. github.com/Platima/Luckfox Lyra. So I've imaged it 4 times with the 4 different images and then dumped it to an image. I also shrunk them to 1 gig, and I've put this repo up with some good information. And then I also have the SHA-256, how to flash it, and a little bit more. So the root partition shrunk, and you actually have to delete the swap space to use it when you first image it. But if you download this, I should fix that. Download this and run it, you can expand your partition again. Now, there's no fdisk, sfdisk, parted, or gdisk on this. So I wrote this Python script, I used an LLM to write this Python script, and this will expand the partition to fill it. After that, you do just need to tell the kernel about it and resize it yourself. So if you want images to it and you're on Mac or Linux, come grab them from here. I probably won't keep them up to date, but this will get you going in the meantime. And then if you're using the Ubuntu variant on any, you can just do apt-get update and apt-get upgrade. Now, back to our documentation here. So that was a bit of a limitation. And there's no real examples yet. There's not too much examples. They've got a little bit about the memory allocation and storage that you might want to change and how it's all structured. But they don't have examples of how to use, any of the accessories like the display. And the documentation they do have is really just limited. So their support is always excellent. I'll give them that. But their documentation here is limited. All the links open in a new tab, which is very frustrating. And it's shared on Google, not on GitHub, equally frustrating. They do have the SDK though, which is really good. That is available on GitHub, and it does have the information here about connecting the screen, which is that one, which I'll show off from Waveshare. So documentation support, I'm going to give them about a 3.5 again. So we'll say 4 for that and 3 for the price and availability to average them out. So we have 3 for price and availability. I'm going to go 4 for features and specs and 4 for documentation and support. Now, as far as the software and images, that's also worth being a little bit aware of. You've got your Ubuntu and non-Ubuntu images for the micro SD or the flash card. This we're also going to rate. So first of all, the variations. They've got Ubuntu and Buildroot. Stock standard. C libraries. Ubuntu is using glibc, and Buildroot, I believe, is using uclibc. So they've got variants in both. Now, the reason they would normally do that is because last I checked, all the Luckfox SDKs use uclibc, and so the Buildroot image is going to have, access to the VPU and whatnot if that is there. The SDK is available. Unfortunately, something that's a little bit busted, and I've got to downrate them for this, the SDK requires Python 2, not 3, and kicks off a little bit of a stink, but appears that you can work around it. It also doesn't support WSL. I tried running it in my WSL container, and it was not happy. So I'll have to spin up a fresh VM for this. The SDK itself is hosted in Google Drive as well. So that took a hot minute to download because it's about 2 gig. They are keeping it up to date. It looks like, as we can see, these are quite new. The kernel 6.1 is excellent. I'm very happy with a modern LTS kernel. 6.10 or 11 would be better, but beggars can't be choosers. And there are no third-party images yet, but I'm looking forward to seeing that. I mean, well, there is now if you consider mine, but these are the same images just repackaged. I'm considering adding NumPy to them. and a few other little things. So I might do that. NumPy and the display support, when I get the SDK going, I'll consider it. So as far as software and images go, I'm going to give them a 5 out of 5. They've got variations in the distribution, in the build method, in the C library used. They've got the SDK available. It's up to date. It's using a new kernel, and there is technically third-party versions available. So it only just cuts in at a 5 out of 5, but I'll give them 5 out of 5. So now we're going to actually use them. And of course, the Plus comes with SPI Flash, which also means it comes pre-imaged. And if you've got ADB available, these are very easy and very handy, very easy to use. So first and foremost, you plug your power in, and then you're done. In a moment, that little light's going to start blinking, so we know it's booted the kernel and started the blink script. And now, if we open up a new terminal here and go back to the desktop, can I make that a little bit bigger for you? All right, there we go. So now, if we just have a look at the bottom of D message, we can see USB 0 is plugged in, RNDIS host, but if we just go ADB devices, we've got a device there, ADB shell, and there is our shell on the device. So you name A, Linux 6.1, proc CPU info is our 3 cores there, ARM v7 32-bit, free -M. There is no swap there. As I said, you might need to set up or delete the swap. If you want to know how to, by the way, it's actually really easy. You go fellocate L, we'll say 128 meg, what? Yep, / swap file. We'll make sure we've got enough free space as well, which we might not. We've got 77 meg available, whoo! All right, let's give it just 32 meg. Then we want to go chmod 0600 swap file, make swap file, and swap on swap file. What? Not sure why it's not liking it, but all right, that's how you normally do it in the Linux version. I'm just going to remove that swap file now. You get the idea. You can see there we've got our 256 meg. It leaves us about 83 meg, which is not bad at all. And cat etc start release. All right, Buildroot 2402, and you can see how it was built there. So if we go, does it have file? No. LDD which bash. LDD is not even included. This Buildroot is tiny. What do we have? 567 commands, and there's nothing special that I've put in here. Most of those, like if you have a look in data, I haven't found anything interesting that actually points to nothing. LS UDisk, LS SD card, nothing's going on there. So we have a basic functional small system here. Now we connected to that with ADB. You can of course SSH to it. Yep, that's running. But if you have a look, by default, it's not going to, all right, the Buildroot one allows root login. The Ubuntu one by default doesn't. So you might need to go and change that in the Ubuntu one. How about we have a look at that? I'm going to unplug this, and I have an SD card here with one of my images on it. That just plugs in underneath there. And the U-boot that is on here will look for the SD card before deciding to boot from the SD flash, the SPI flash. So let's see what this wants to do now. It is blinking. Just got to wait for it to, initialize its ADB. One thing I'll say, helps if you can see, the one thing I'll say here is the SD card being over the MCU does pose some limitations. If if you wanted to add some passive cooling to that, you couldn't. You're going to have to use the SPI flash, and these do generate a little bit of heat. Alrighty, there we go. So ADB shell, and we'll see here it's a little bit different. We do have that swap file there we set up, and it is those same commands. So Buildroot's just having a bit of a fit there. What I didn't check before, I'm curious about, if we go ctl vm.swappiness, it's currently set to 60. I'm going to set that to 10. There we go. Just so it uses less of the swap because we're on an SD card there. etc release, Ubuntu 22.04 there. Same 6.1.99 kernel. Now, as far as performance goes, I'd love to be able to benchmark this, but I have had a hard time getting NumPy on here. It keeps crashing during the install, which is very frustrating. I did connect it to the internet through the Ethernet and tried just using pip, but I kept having issues. And because it has Python 3.10, it's actually really hard to find NumPy for ARM HF or ARM7L that's for Python 3.10. There's 3.9 and there's 3.12 or 3.11. So I will keep twiddling with that, and I'll probably upload it to the same location as the images that I've put together for this when I get it sorted. But all in all, if we're to look at the performance and reliability, general use, it does exactly what's described. It's a shame the Ubuntu version doesn't come with more, but you do have the app libraries there as soon as it's connected to the Wi-Fi, which is good. I can't benchmark it yet because of the lack of NumPy, but I will be using my semi-universal or universal to be ML accelerator benchmark. So now, the last thing that we want to look at is, does an Arduino? That's the question we're asking about all of these days. This doesn't make up a part of the tier list, but it is something I'm quite curious about. So I know the Luckfox Lyra itself does not Arduino out of the box. We know that because it's not in the documentation, but it is using a pretty common, or not common, but a pretty, widely available SoC. However, if we have a bit of a Google of it, we can see by default it doesn't. What we do know though is that the Cortex A7 does have Arduino options. So it is definitely able to, it just doesn't yet. For that, I'm going to say it can Arduino, not yet. You could be the one to make it happen. You're welcome to just write Arduino core for the this SoC based on any other A7 implementation. Shouldn't be hard, I'm not going to do it myself. So now we get down to the crux of it, and that is the tier list. Now, first and foremost, what is it? It is an eSBC, as we looked at. You can run a full Linux on it, but it's got no well, actually, you know what? It has got a display output, but I'm not considering DSI as a display output. This is a HMI, human machine interface output. It is not your normal, you can't just plug it in and use it as a computer sort of output. So I'm still going to call this an eSBC, and I'm pretty certain my board taxonomies does cover that. We gave it a 3 for price and availability, a 4 for features and specs, a 4 for documentation and support. I think I said they just scooted in with a 5 for software and images. Same thing for performance and reliability. I could be getting this wrong, by the way. And that was a 4 for accessories and compatibility. So all in all, that's the average of a 4. 4 out of 5 is pretty good, and that gives it a solid A. So I will upload this. In fact, when you see this video, I'll probably have it here. You'll be able to click on it. You'll be able to see the type. You'll be able to jump to the video, jump to the purchase page for it. It will be ranked. So what do you think? These are designed for human machine interfaces. They're designed for touch screens of HD or less quality. That's 1280 by 800 standard touchscreen density at the moment. But they're kind of, in my opinion, competing in that ESP32 space. ESP or Espressif have made a lot of human machine, let's move that over there, a lot of human machine interface boards and modules. They're very, very good at it. Now, Waveshare making lots of displays, and Luckfox making SBCs are making this little kit. So it is designed for and good for HMI when they add the damn documentation. What do you think it would be good for? I think it's best suited for embedded 32-bit development at the moment. I think we have enough things there to really make it worthwhile. We will have a quick look at how much power it draws though, because I don't actually expect it to be very much. We plug this into here, and then we grab another one from the drawer and plug that into there. You can't really see that, can you? So 100 milliamps basically for booting, less than 100 milliamps, and it seems pretty stable there at 95 milliamps, give or take a little bit. That's pretty good. I'll give it some credit for that. So what do you think? Do let me know. I'm always curious on other people's opinions about these things because I am very biased, of course. I got sent this for free to test. I did buy them for stock though. The stock's not free. I quite like it. I have less use for HMI stuff, but I might try getting my Home Assistant interface running on at one point because or in one day, because I'm running on an old iPad Air 2 and that's just failing. Don't forget to like and subscribe if you enjoy this content. Don't forget to check out all the cool stuff I'm doing. So you've got Patreon if you really want to support it. You've got r/SBC if you want to get involved. You've got my shop if you want pretty much anything, even soldering irons like a stock to Pintzel. You've got the GitHub repos if you want to submit any contributions to the board taxonomy, my ML accelerator benchmark, or these Luckfox Lyra images. And then don't forget to support PCBWay. Go check out their store. Have a look at all these awesome little things that they've got available that have nothing to do with PCBs a lot of the time that you might just find very affordable and useful. So thank you all for sticking around this long. I really appreciate your support. Thank you to PCBWay as always. I hope you have a good weekend. I'll see you next time.